Today I'm going to build an advertorial here on video, and I'm going to do it in a very simple way with a simple step-by-step process so you can follow along and build the same for your brand. I'm going to also do it in a much harder way because this brand right here, Proof Test, is not a client of ours at the agency, so I don't have any more information than what you're seeing here on their PDP. I don't have access to their reviews, I don't have access to their marketing, I don't have access to anything that they're using internally. I only have access to the information I see here on their product page, and that's why I decided to do this way, because obviously not having access to a brand makes it much more difficult for me to conduct research to come up with angles, but it's still very possible to do that. And obviously if you're going to follow along and you're going to do this for your own brand, then it's going to be much easier, obviously, because you know much better your audience, you know much better your customers, you know much better how you're selling and who you're selling to. So if you're following along, this should be much easier for you for your own brand. I'm going to do it on this brand right here. First, because it's not a client of ours at the agency, and second, because they have a very good product that it's perfect. It's built for advertorials and for problems and pains related stories that lead then to a mechanism at the end. So in this case, we're looking at the fertility test bundle, both for men and women. So in this case, aimed at couples. And the first thing I want to check out here, besides all of the information that is on this product page, so I have access only to the information that's here on this product page here. So besides what is actually inside the bundle, today we don't want to go for that angle. We don't want to go for the offer angle or explain the bundle itself. Today we want to build an advertorial, so we need to focus on the story angle. So we need to understand first how customers approach the product and why did they approach the product in the first place. So you can already think of a few examples here. You can think about a few things here that might be related to fertility tests. So obviously couples trying to conceive, or birth control, stuff related to birth control, or miscarriages. Sadly, those happen too, and fertility tests are also related to those. You can already try and kind of imagine a few of these things, but we're going to actually check the reviews here and see what customers are saying. So in this case, this product page is not that bad. So as you can see here, they explain a lot of things, so what's included, and also a lot of education about how to use the tests, when to use them, how to use them effectively to get good results. Because obviously one thing that's super important in this case and super relatable to people that are trying to use these tests is making sure that everything goes well and is good, because if you get wrong results, if you get false positives, obviously very saddening in these cases, especially since it's a very big and emotional problem for majority of the world. So especially those things. So they have a lot of education here, but what we want to see to build a story angle is we want to look at reviews here. So I'm going to scroll down and look at a few of these reviews. I've already done it off video, so I don't want to like get you through all of these reviews because I've read a lot of them. There are still pages here, I've gone through all of them. So the main pointers I was able to come up with are the main customers, and as you can check here from content, if you want to read, you can simply go to their pdpprooftest.com and find the product, and you can find all of these reviews there. The main pointers that I was able to find from these reviews are the main customers are women. So like the women in the couple is usually the one that's most focused on the fertility side of things. And even if this is a product for both, so it contains a test both for men and women, women are the ones that are most focused on this, and they buy they are the ones that buy the bundle for both. So if I had to give a split between all of the reviews that I read here, I would say that's an 80-20 split. So 80% it's women buying the tests for both, and the other 20% is men buying the tests. So you already understand here first what type of persona we're going to sell to. We're going to sell to mainly to women, and this also opens up a few different angles that you can think about. So marketing the tests toward women to get men to also try it. So that's one of the first angles you can think about. If you're going to target women, obviously we're going to target more things that are specifically related to women. So obviously cycle, one of the things that's super important when trying to check for fertility. You're going to talk about birth control because it's mainly women using birth control. You are going to talk about sadly, unfortunately, miscarriages, also a very relatable thing for women that are experiencing these things. So first of all, we are selling mainly to women here. Second, they all mentioning the ease of use of the product and how they try different other solutions. For example, this review here comes to mind. It says here that the test detected I was ovulating much sooner than another method that they've used, which is the nasal body temperature app that they were using. Then, as far as angles specifically goes, we've talked about miscarriages, and another, obviously, the most common angle is people trying to conceive for months and years on end and having no luck with that. So here, this one reviews mentioned that my husband and I have been trying for 10 months. So another thing mentioned here that we can use as an angle. And just by going through these reviews here, I don't have access to any other information. I just have access to information I'm reading here, I'm looking at here, that you can all look at. It's public on their product page. You can already come up with a lot of angles to explain who you're going to sell to. And why do we need this information? We need this information because we're going to feed one of the methods we use to research for clients when they come on board and we work with them at our agency. We obviously conduct research always first. We need to understand the angles. We need to understand the persona we're selling to. We need to understand the market. And first thing first, we always conduct research. That's a non-negotiable. It's always the first thing we do. And one of the methods we use for conducting research, we have a few of them, 3, 4, and 5, that we rely on to understand the market as much as possible. One of the main ones we use is obviously AI, and you're going to need to come up with 5, 6, 7 different things about the target audience and the customer persona you're selling to, so that you can build angles based on those. So if you go to ChatGPT here, I've already asked ChatGPT a few things off camera, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a review of what I've done here. Basically, I've asked ChatGPT to come up with 5 different advertorial angles, and the structure we're using for the advertorial angle here, I've talked about this extensively on my Twitter, on other videos on my channel, is going to be a headline, a main headline, a sub headline, and then the storyline. Obviously, we're building a story here, we're building an advertorial around the story, so we need to have the hero story, that everything that's built in a story kind of layout is focused around. So the storyline goes like this: there's a starting situation, so the starting problem and the main angle we're going to talk about. So in this case, the first one that came up after looking at all of these reviews is Sarah and John, which are 2 imaginary people, been trying to conceive for years without success. The most basic angle and foundational angle we can use here. Expectations, obviously, as when people start stuff like trying to get babies, for example, and trying to conceive, they have expectations at the beginning. Another angle that you can use here is, for example, looking at other friends of theirs. So, for example, Sarah and John have other male and female couple friends. They also tried to conceive and achieve that very easily, or maybe failed a few times and then achieved that. So that's another pain point you can focus on when marketing and angling this product here. So they have expectations. In this case, the expectations that they come up with is they thought getting pregnant would be easy and natural. Then they have the problem. So the focus of the story is around, obviously, the problem that they're having. So months turned into years. So a lot of time wasted of negative pregnancy tests and disappointment. Trying to traditional solutions, the next step in the hero story. So tracking ovulation with apps, as we mentioned before, one of the method that women usually try to track all of these things is the nose temperature thing. I'm not finding the review. I think it was on page 2. This one right here. So the nasal body temperature app. So trying other solutions. Emotional effect of these. This is one of the focuses, one of the main centers of the story. So how do all of these problems result in emotional problems, and obviously all of the kind of emotional side of things, which applies very well to these kinds of problems and products. So frustration, sadness, and a sense of hopelessness set in. One of the main things you can think about here. Trying one thing 10 times, 20 times, 100 times on end, and failing at it. Obviously, hopelessness, frustration, main things that you can think about. Light at the end of the tunnel. So then at a certain point, when they're at the lowest, so experiencing all of these emotional problems and having tried 100 times, they find the light at the end of the tunnel. So they discover, in this case, here's the product that's mentioned. I wouldn't go for this specifically. So one thing that's super important about AI is that you're going to ask for angles for coming up with stuff, but you're going to write the copy yourself. You're going to sheaf the copy yourself. We want to only use AI for ideas, for coming up with angles, for kind of recycling the information we give it and build a package for us that we can then expand upon and write the copy upon. So we don't use AI to write the copy, obviously. I'm going to use it in this video just for the purpose of the video, but that's very important, because if you're going to use AI copy, you're going to fail at making it as relatable as possible. You need to put some human touch in there, so you need to write the copy yourself. So they discover the solution here. I wouldn't go specifically with this. I would kind of mask it a little bit around the mechanism itself first and then explain the product. So here the new mechanism explains, so comprehensive hormone testing for both partners at home, and then the results identified hormone imbalances and optimized their conception effort. And we have a few other angles here because I asked for 5 angles. So the second one is Emma felt lost and confused about fertility. So here this is an angle focusing on the woman's side specifically. Tried other expectations, thought her doctor would have all the answers, trying obviously traditional medicine, irregular cycles, and explain infertility. So one of the main problems here of infertility is irregular cycles, problem that's a lot of women experience. More relatable angles here, so more emotional effects, anxiety, stress, lack of control, the most common ones. Then we have other angles, mainly target as men in this case, for example. So this one is target at Mike. He assumed he was healthy and not the issue. And one of the expectations, this is a very good angle if you're going to sell to a male audience. He thought fertility problems were usually on the woman's side. So you're going to use AI to come up with kind of these things right here. Stuff that's commonly out there, that's commonly talked about, maybe even stereotypes, because in this case this is a stereotype, but fertility problems happen both to males and male and female. So in this case this is actually a very good angle too, if you're going to sell to men and target men in this case. Here we have another angle, mainly targeted at women. In this case, the problem is tracking cycles. So one problem that's been mentioned a few times here. So and also you can see that the more one thing is mentioned, so tracking cycle and stuff like that, the more that thing is a problem to the target audience. So that's why you want to kind of like ask AI, what are the main things, what are the most common problems, what are the most common pains and problems experienced by this type of audience, and you give those 5, 6, 7 pointers we come up with before while looking at the reviews, and you ask AI to come up with the most common stuff. And usually when a thing is repeated 2, 3, 4 times, then it's super important to cater towards that specific pain or problem. So here tracking your cycle mentioned again, so another big problem in this case. And then we have a final angle here, angle 5. So another angle related at the couple, so no more just man and woman here, but Jennifer and Dave in this case, another 2 imaginary people devastated after experiencing a miscarriage. So one of the angles I was mentioning before while looking at the reviews, one older super important angle, miscarriages. So they thought getting pregnant again would be easy. So after miscarriages, obviously you keep trying again at conceiving, and they thought here again would be easy, and then it continues with the same angles we've seen in number 1. So months pass without success, leaving them anxious and worried. So another similar angle to number 1 here. So here then I asked ChatGPT to write story number 1, so using angle number 1, and these are the answers that ChatGPT came with. Obviously do not just copy and paste and use what ChatGPT is mentioning here. You can use this to kind of understand how the story flows. So obviously here you have the pointers, you have the kind of specific like pillars of the story. So pillar 1, pillar 2, so the pillar of the situation, the pillar of the expectations, the problems. You kind of can ask ChatGPT to write the story in itself to understand how all these pillars connect together and form the flow of the story from start to finish. But you can't just copy and paste it, you have to go through it. There are already a few things that you can see here that I think should be expanded upon, and if you're going, obviously when you're going to write this yourself, you're going to expand upon. So this specifically I've seen in both of these examples that the section where they mentioned trying traditional solutions. So for example, here in example number 1, there's specific sections for trying traditional solutions, and they mention here they visited doctors, tracked CROEvolution, and tried traditional fertility treatments. There's a problem with this sentence here. It's just going too fast over the traditional solutions that they've tried. So for example, CROEvolution with apps, and here apps is a little bit generic. As we know from reading just one of those reviews, there are specific methods that women use to track these things. and specific like really specific things. So for example, nasal body temperature is the one we've read before in the reviews, and the more specific you are with these things, the more relatable is the story, the easier you're going to convert your audience, because it feels like they're almost reading their story to themselves. This is what you need to do, and this is like what you need to go for when building advertorial and story angles specifically. It needs to feel like the prospect is reading their own story, their own experience, their own pain, like through your story and through what you're writing to them. So here they go over that too fast. For example, ChatGPT goes over that too fast. Try traditional fertility treatments. Again, it goes over it super fast without even mentioning what are these treatments, what was the results of these treatments, and stuff like that. So here, for example, some of these points I think should be changed. For example, one thing that I don't think is done well here is explaining how did they find the new mechanism. So here, the light at the end of the tunnel is a friend recommended the test to them. So in this case, the problem, and I've tested this with a lot of advertorials that we've done for clients, they are already mentioning the product here, so proves his and their advanced fertility test. So they're mentioning the full product, and they're going with that immediately. What you want to do when you're building advertorials and building story angles is you want to go over the mechanism first and not immediately go into the product. So here they go immediately into the product, and then when they explain the mechanism, they don't really explain the mechanism, but they go directly to the product and explain the benefits of the product. So I want to go first before going to the product, because the product is like the mechanism is the gateway to the product. So we obviously want to go for the mechanism first, explain the mechanism first, and then the product only comes at the end, where you actually want to go through with a call to action, with an offer. So you want to go here, for example, what ChatGPT is doing wrong is going too fast towards the product and not explaining the mechanism first, not getting them to understand and to be warmed up to the idea of trying a new thing, because you have to think at all of this from their perspective and from their point of view. They've already tried, like people and couples that are going through this have already tried a million things. They've already tried, and they've tried maybe for months, maybe for years, maybe for they've tried for a lot of time, and they've tried a lot of things. So you need to be you need to kind of introduce these things slowly. You need to get them warmed up to the idea that this new thing will help them, and if you're actually one other thing that's not really talked about, and people think when you market products, you kind of have to do it in a deceiving way, or in an evil quote unquote kind of way. But when these products actually help people, and in this case it's a very big problem and a very emotional problem, if you trust the product with this, it's going to bring a solution, you need to actually do this. So you need to focus on really being in their shoes and explaining what are the problems and what are the pains that they're experiencing, and getting them warmed up to the idea that there's still hope, not everything is lost, that they need to go through and test one more thing they've had already done, that there's still more to do, there's still more to experience, and there's still more to try. So focus very, very well on explaining the story and explaining these things from their point of view, from their perspective. Their point of view and their perspective is that they've already gone through a million things. So warm them up to the idea first. You need to slow down when you're kind of writing advertorials, writing story angles. You need to slow down the pace, go through every step appropriately, get them warmed up to the mechanism, and then explain, and then go to the product at the end and offer the product at the end with a call to action. What you also want to do with advertorial angles is making them much more visual. So someone should read your sentences and read the starting, especially if you set up the expectation and the story at the beginning and you make them imagine the story, then it's much more effective in that way. And I think ChatGPT here, non-intentionally, by testing two different answers, here in answer number 2 came up with a much better angle here. So in the first one, it mentions just that they've been trying to conceive for years, and just like this very simple, very foundational starting situation we can think about. So they thought it would be a simple journey, expecting a new family to come together as easily, but then the month turned it into years. They face continuous disappointment. So it just goes through that very brief. It doesn't really expand into it. The second answer here makes a much better, pictures a much better story, or a much more relatable story in their mind. So in this case, they pictured their future filled with laughter, tiny footsteps running across the floor, and a joy of watching their child grow. So this obviously is much heavier, is much more in depth. It pictures like just the perfect image that they had imagined all of this time while trying to create a family. So the starter here is much better from starter number 1. And remember, here we're trying to go for a story, we're trying to go for an emotional, filled and focused story. So this starter here is much better. For example, for the first few like sentences in the advertorial, remember, always try to optimize for the above the fold. The sooner you can get them hooked, the better. What you're trying to do with advertorials is not getting them immediately in front of an offer, is not getting them immediately in front of the product, is not getting them to buy right away and proposing discounts or offers or stuff like that. What you need to do in advertorials is sell the scroll, is sell the story, is sell the next sentence. So that's why it's super important to kind of picture these images in the minds of the prospects, picture these happy things that they might arrive to, and they need to get to through the mechanism that you're explaining here. So I have a brand new Figma here. I just imported their current PDP that we're looking at, with all of the information that we got from it. I'm going to need it for a few assets for the advertorial we're going to build. The good thing about advertorial is, beside obviously all of the research and coming up with the copy and actually writing the copy, which is the hardest and the part that takes the longest time, and actually the thing you should be focusing on the most. Besides that, on advertorials, there's actually not a lot of design that goes on. There's not a lot of assets that you need. You mostly need, depending obviously on the niche. So we're going to do it with what we have here. So immediately we're going to build a new frame here. Let's do the mobile version, because obviously the version that will get the most traffic. So let's start from an empty frame here. What you're going to do for advertorial, there's a little bit of a standard kind of layout we go with. So we're going to copy the logo, put it here on the new page. I'll put the headline, not a headline, sorry, but a bar here at the top. We usually do it this way. Let's do it 60. Let's put the logo on there. Now we're going to have a little bit of branding, because that's usually important when you're selling on advertorials. You want still to have some type of branding there, at least the colors. We prefer to have logos in here. Bring this to front. I couldn't find the button. Then we get the branding color here. So immediately we have some branding there just to help. One thing that you could test having or not having is having a call to action here. We've tested this for all of our clients. With some it performs very well, with some it doesn't really perform. There's not really anyone that clicks on it, so you have to test it. That's why split testing is super important. With landing pages, one thing that I always mention, and landers and funnels specifically, so they're a little bit different than your usual split testing kind of system. I have a full 1-hour guide video on that on my channel. I'm going to leave the card in the top right here on the video, where I explain all of my CRO system from A to Z, what we do for our clients in the agency. With funnels, what you want to test is obviously with the funnel itself. So with the lander, the first stage is actually testing the lander itself with traffic. So we're going to build an advertorial here, and then you're going to send traffic on it and test different angles with different advertorials. On the winning advertorial or the winning lander or the winning funnel, then you're going to test inside the actual funnel or the actual lander. So for example, at the second stage would be the test that I just mentioned on having the call to action here at the top or not. So test having it or not having it, how it, what's the click-through rate, what's the engagement with heat maps, with screen recordings. If it's too early to have a call to action there, it really depends. I usually like it, but obviously it's not about whether I like it or not, it's whether it performs well in tests. But I'll just have it there just to add a little bit of look to the advertorial, so we can mention here what they have in the announcement bar is good enough. We don't need to think about it too much. So we'll have free shipping on orders here over $50. So let's write that here. Let's have it maybe a little smaller, so maybe a 12. Make the call to action a little bit bigger. Maybe it's too big actually. So let's say free shipping available, something like that. So it's not that you get it for sure, but it's available, so you can check that out. Obviously testing also the testing copy. So the things about advertorials and landers in general is that what will yield the most results after you've tested angles is testing the copy about on the angle itself. So testing headlines, testing sub-headlines, testing the first kind of a few sentences, the first paragraph or block of the page, because that is what obviously is going to hook people in. So let's make that bold. I already like the look of that a little bit better, so that's good enough. Let's group that. Let's group it with this. Let's make an auto layout instead. Center everything, make a little bit of space, make sure everything is centered here. Perfect. So this already looks a little bit better, but this is like just normal random stuff, layout stuff you need to do. What we need to focus here is the headline. The headline is what is going to be the 80% of advertorials, as always with everything, with CRO, with split testing, with landers, there's an 80 and there's a 20, and the 80 with advertorials is the copy and is specifically the headline. What ChatGPT proposed to us, I think is good enough here. So we can probably use this. So obviously, you can ask for variations of things when you build advertorials. For example, we're going to copy this. We're going to see how it looks, how it feels, how it reads in the flow of the page. And then we're going to make a decision if you want something else or not. Let's keep it this way. Let's make it branded, obviously bold and bigger. Let's see how it looks like. Maybe this is a little too much. It's not too bad. Maybe let's try and change fonts here. I'm going all looks because just to make something that looks semi-decent for the video. But as I mentioned before, you really don't need to focus on all of these things. You want to focus on copy, you want to focus on headline, you want to focus on something and the things that actually are going to drive the most conversions and the most performance from this. I think this headline is not bad. I think we can probably try and ask ChatGPT for more variations here. So come up with more variations for the headline than what we have here. The focus is to get people to scroll. So we want to hook them. Well, give me 5 variations. So let's see based on the data. So the issue with what a lot of people do with AI, and why a lot of people say that AI is garbage, when like actually for writing copy it is garbage, but for pattern recognition, for coming up with stuff, it's super good. But the problem that a lot of people have, and that doesn't allow them to leverage AI like it should be leveraged, is actually providing it the data that it needs to come up with these things. If you're going to just write a few sentences and then ask it to come up with stuff, it's going to be bad. The results are going to be bad, very bad. What you need is give it like the data that it needs to come up with these things. And we do that inside the agency for our clients with custom scripts. For example, for clients that have a lot of reviews, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, 50,000 reviews. Obviously that's impossible to do just the standard way with the front end here with ChatGPT on the website. So we have custom scripts for that. We extract all of the context, all of the data. We often come up with 100,000 to 200,000, 500,000 tokens containing all of the things that customers mention and reviews mention and other information about the brand. And we then extract and make we let the AI pattern recognition through all of that data. And you can imagine when you have 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 tokens or words, that's a lot of things, and you can extract a lot of very good information from that. But if you fail at the first step, which is providing it the data, then you will fail at actually creating results that matter and that get out good things. So let's see the headline that ChatGPT came up with here. So the first one, they tried everything to conceive. This one, test change everything. This one is not actually that bad. I think this one is better than what we have now, probably. Then let's see, after use of heartbreak, they finally discovered the missing piece. This one is bad because the first reason is it's too generic. So after use of heartbreak, they finally discovered the missing piece. This could be a million different things. This headline is super bad. So obviously with the data, still, if you give it all of data, if you give it everything, it's still going to output not good things. That's why you need to supervise it and write the copy yourself and use it just for input and inspiration, because this headline here is super bad. If you're going to use this headline, the advertorial will fail at doing the main thing it needs to do, which is getting people to scroll, hooking people, and getting people to actually read what you're going to tell them. Let's see what the third one, what's how this couple get pregnant after years of struggling. This is actually a very good headline. I actually prefer this headline than what we have right now. Let's see how it looks. This is actually a very, very good headline. I prefer it to the ones. It immediately targets the audience we want to sell to, so couples. It immediately mentions the problem and the pain point that they were talking about, so get pregnant, and the emotion related to that after years of struggling. So very good headline, very targeted, immediately calls out the audience we are talking to here. The fourth one mentions the test that gave them the answer no doctor could. This could become a good headline in this stage right here. It's not that good. What you would add here is like the answer to what are we talking about here, what the answer to what question they had, and what, like, in what sense related to doctor, and that no doctor could. So this headline could become good potentially if you work on it a little bit. The fifth one says this at home test revealed what months of doctor visits couldn't. So the flow you can see here with these headlines, especially with number 2, 4 and 5, I think 1 and 3 are good enough. 4 could become good if you do a little bit of work on it. 2 and 5 are not good. And usually the problem with headlines and what you want to focus on with headlines is immediately calling out the target audience you're talking to, is immediately calling out one specific thing that the target audience wants to read, wants to see, and like what they want to hear. And headlines 2, 4, and 5 here fail at doing that. So I think the best headlines out of these 5 right here is 1 and 3 probably. They are the best headlines right here, and the one that I prefer personally. And don't fall into the things of things that you prefer personally or that you like better. Split testing will always give you the truth and the results and the actual data that you can make decisions on. So never fail on that. Never do things that just you prefer for the reasons that you prefer it personally. But this one headline I think is pretty good. I think would perform well based on what we've seen from other clients of ours. Let's go forward with a sub headline here. So what we would couple it, so come up with sub headlines to couple with headline number 3, which is the one that we chose. The focus is obviously, as we always mention, is getting people to read the next sentence to get them through the advertorial. Focus on getting people to scroll. Let's stay under 3-4 sentences. Okay, these are too short, but we can kind of work on them and see the idea. What's the idea here? The journey wasn't easy, but the answer they needed was clearer than they thought. I don't like these. I think they're too short or too. They are headlines in their own way. I think that if you want to couple it with, and you have to read this stuff out loud and see how it sounds. So if you go on the page and you read what helped this couple get pregnant after years of struggling, their journey wasn't easy, but the answer they needed was closer than they thought. Maybe you can kind of couple it. If you go here, it depends on the layout you want to go for. So there's brands that after the advert and after the headline, especially, they go immediately with the story. So you could start with something like this, and with advertorials, obviously, all of this stuff is what you would actually test on the pages. That's too big, so you would have, for example, that here, and some advertorials do this. So they start immediately with all of the text. Obviously, this is too big right now. For that, let's make it regular. Let's make it smaller. So something like this. So it starts immediately with the copy. I think that this is too much. Probably what you want to go for in terms of layout, what you want to optimize for, is somewhere where you see the headline. So obviously the headline is the focus in the center of the page, and maybe making even this a little bit bigger. Having the text maybe that starts. So this is the above the fold on an average size phone. This is an iPhone 13, 14, which is the average size for mobile phones right now. You want kind of the text to be already somewhat visible from the start here. So you want to align it obviously here. You want to the text to be already somewhat visible. So maybe something like this. And in the center here, you can do a little bit of what you want in terms of layout. What a lot of brands do here is obviously, if you want to go for the traditional classic advertorial thing, then you would have the writer, so the actual person that wrote the advertorial here. So John Doe, for example, something like that, and then the date here, so you can copy and paste that, and here have the date. Let's use the date of today. It's December 5th 2024, and you can also make this dynamic. If you're going to drive cold traffic to this, you can make this dynamic to reflect the day of like the day of today with some JavaScript. It's super easy to do. If you're going to build these pages custom, even with page builders, you're able to do that. So that should be also one easy way that you're able to get there. Then you can try to do a few things here. So what I personally like to do, and not every brand is able to do that, because not every brand has the videos and the things available to do this. But one thing we've tested, and one thing I could personally say performs super well, is having a video here, some kind of video, maybe a VSL. I think a VSL for advertorials are too overkill. I think maybe some piece of social proof or stuff like that could work a little bit better. We've tested with social proof videos, and it works pretty well. But even VSLs, you can try and test that. I think with VSLs, you probably need to veer to a little bit different type of funnel instead of an actual traditional advertorial. But if you don't have videos, this is fine. You can have an image here. I think I will use that just for the example, for the example's sake. Let's make this image a little bit bigger. Here I don't really have any other images to have here. I don't like this image specifically for the advertorial, because it immediately goes to the product, immediately markets the product, which is not what we want here, especially on an advertorial. But we're going to work with what we have here, probably using some stock image, some lifestyle image here of a couple could be a little bit better. And what I imagine for the image would be a stressed out couple, a couple that's maybe a little like maybe they're discussing or having an argument or stuff like that, and maybe having also a comparison of after using the like after discovering this method, so what helped this couple get pregnant. Maybe also having a comparison could perform pretty well. Then as far as layouting goes, layouting is actually very important on advertorial. So you want to make sure there isn't like a distinction of where stuff starts and where it ends, and what are kind of the headline, what's the separation, what's the sub-headline, what's the context of the page. You want to really handle that very clearly. So I would probably have a separation here, just to the line, like where the advertorial starts. This image, I would have some text here. The text you could have here is actually pretty diverse. You could actually have a review here. So maybe going for something like this, going on the page. I have to open a new page from scratch. So let's do this. Let's take, for example, a simple review here. Here it depends really on the angle you're going for. So if this page here, we're going to mention what helped this couple get pregnant after years of struggling, you can really go for any type of review here. If you're going to angle it around specific things, or for example around miscarriage, or around cycle, or around trying to conceive, we have a pretty generic headline, which is not the best, and I'm using this just for the video, but you want headlines to be extremely focused on the angle you're going for, because if you're trying to cater to everyone, you're not going to get anyone. So you want to be very, very focused with headlines. Just for the video example here, I think this review is good enough. I'm so happy after using the second set. This is what we need here. We don't want to go into too many details immediately above the fold. I want to just give them the reassurance that this is something that they might actually try, and might give them some hope and stuff like that. So make that smaller, make the text much more. I'm giving you a few layout examples here of what you can try and go for. Make that much smaller. So having that right there, you want to obviously distinguish it from normal text. So what you can probably try to do here is having a kind of box to circle that around, send that to back. So you have a center, the kind of thing here to distinguish the review from the rest of the copy. So you would do something like this, and you center it here. You change the colors. You give this a little bit of style just to make it look a little better. You can maybe try. I want to make this italic, but there's no There's no italic for this font, but it's just minor things. You can probably try and do something like this, but you would go for a bolder font. Then you can separate here again. I'll give a few layout examples different than this. I don't really like this one. I think we can go for kind of a better style, but I'm just trying to give a few examples here, so bear with me. Let's do it like this. This is not bad for kind of a off the top of my head iteration. Another iteration you can go for is, instead of having a review here, let's see if on their website they have these. So if they have, yeah, these ones. I'm not going to, let's go for a screenshot here. Let's go for something super simple so we don't have to waste too much time on it. I'm just going to copy and paste this as screenshots so we don't have to actually go and make this ourselves. Let's do it like that and get it in here. Obviously make it much smaller than it is right now. This is also layout you can go for. It would work super well. So maybe something like that. Not the best looking, so let's remove this. This actually already a divider. Looks a little bit scuffed, but just because I made it with the screenshot there, so not the best as a look. But this is also an idea you can go for here, a layout you can go for. Let's get this up a little bit just to separate everything a little better. Here, let's get this up a little bit and this up a little bit more, so we separate everything, make sure that everything is contextually good and looks good. So this is actually another layout you can go for. This actually looks I think it looks better than the first layout. Other layouts you can go for, there's a million different variations you can go for here. You can obviously decide here, as I mentioned before, to remove this and just to go for the logo. You can decide for a million different things here. You can change a million different things. I think the change that would make the most difference are not I think it's actually what's going to make the most difference are the headline. So testing the headline is what is going to get the most results here. Second to that is the layouting in the above the fold and what you're going to showcase above the fold here. But there's a few examples of how I would go and actually write and actually create this advertorial. Another layout idea that just came to mind, you can go for it here. You have to lock this in place so it doesn't move. So let's lock it. Let's expand on this a little bit. So having actually the sub headline here might be a good idea. So starting something like this. I know these are not the best examples, but just to give you an idea of how it would look. So having something like this added, you add the sub headlines idea here. Instead of having them at the top as actual text, you put them here and you go for a sub headline like this. You change the color just to give the context. Always make sure the context is right. So something like this probably, but I think these are the same fonts, yeah, or the same size, so which is not good if you're going to go for this. So let's make this 24 a little bit bigger to make sure the difference is noticeable. Perfect. This looks I think this looks good for starters. I just came up with these layouts in 5-10 minutes, so they're not the best looking obviously, and you can come up with much better stuff here. But just to give you an idea of how you would start an advertorial, how you'd go for an advertorial here. I hope this was helpful. I think definitely if you're going to build advertorials, you're going to go for this specific step-by-step example here. It's very simple, and you're going to do it even better in less time, because you actually have access to your brand, you have access to the information of your brand, you have access to all of your reviews, and you can do this much easier instead of just going off of what they have on the product page. But these are a few examples of how I would go and build an advertorial from scratch. I'm writing a full advertorial guide in a document format, so you can go through it at your own pace, and I'm going to be releasing that soon. Just like I've done for my full CRO guide, you can find the 1-hour video on my channel where I explain the full e-commerce split testing system we've implemented for 7 and 8 figure brands. You can find that in the top right card on this video. If you want to work with me and my team, we've implemented all of these things for 7 and 8 figure e-commerce brands, and we can do the same for you. You can book a free audit call with me in the second link in the description. If you want weekly CRO insights and access to all of the documents I mentioned and show in these videos, you can get subscribed to my email list and you receive a free list of goodies in your inbox. In the first link in the description, you put your email and you sign up for it. See you in the next video.